Welcome to the Speaking of Women's Health podcast. I'm your guest host, Leigh Klekar. I am the producer of the Speaking of Women's Health podcast, and I'm thrilled to be back in the Sunflower House today to guest host a new podcast episode about caregiving. November is National Family Caregivers Month and National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. And it's a time where we can acknowledge and honor families who are often caregiving around the clock. While I think family caregivers should be celebrated every day, this is a time to recognize and honor caregivers nationally, raise awareness around caregiving issues, educate communities, and work to increase support for our nation's caregivers. This is a part two episode to the podcast I did in June called Know the Signs of Alzheimer's Disease. June is Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. And on that episode, I shared tips for people living with the disease and other forms of dementia to help them have a bit of normal in their everyday lives. And I shared the 10 signs of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. I have a personal and professional connection to the disease, and I've had friends and family ask for information, ask for, is this normal? Is this something that you experience? Is this something that you've seen others experience? So I wanted to share that information and those tips and answers that I had shared with my friends and family on the podcast, for those who are going through a similar situation. So I hope you find this episode helpful and share with others that may be in a similar situation as well, or that are caregiving for a parent or a friend or anybody who's living with a disease that requires around the clock care. And nearly 100 million people in the United States have chronic conditions, anything from Alzheimer's disease to serious physical or developmental disabilities. And many of these conditions require 24-hour care. There was a survey, a national survey conducted by the National Alliance for Caregivers and AARP that estimates that 80% of all care received by older Americans is provided by family members. So that would include spouses, children, grandchildren, or other relatives. And in fact, today in America, more than 53 million family caregivers provide unpaid care. What that means too is that takes away from those, the caregivers are unable to work or work as much to care for themselves. So this is why this is an important topic that we are going to dive into today. As America's senior population continues to grow in size, more and more people are providing unpaid care to a loved one who is ill, disabled, or elderly. And caregivers provide assistance to their loved ones with sometimes one or more or both types of daily living activities. And those living activities are: one is instrumental activities of daily living, or IADL. So that's caregiving that says, going to the grocery store for someone else or maintaining their bank account. And the second type of daily living activity is just activities of daily living, or ADL. And that's caregiving that includes bathing, dressing, feeding, and for those loved ones who are being cared for, more than half live alone in their own home, while only 20% live in the same household as their caregiver. The remaining percentage of people live with another family member or with a friend. So that's a lot of going back and forth for our caregivers, um, not only just driving, but you know, not having that assurance or knowing what's happening with those that they're caregiving for because they're in a different household. Providing care though for a loved one can be rewarding, as you help a loved one in need, you're helping them maintain a comfortable quality of life. However, it can be very challenging, and in order to benefit you and your loved one, it is essential that you approach it armed with the proper knowledge and attitude. So, with that said, we have a few tips to offer on the matter. And I'd like to start with creating social opportunities. So, again, as people age, the likelihood of social isolation and loneliness increases. And this is linked to a number of physical and mental health risks, such as hypertension, heart disease, obesity, immunosuppression, anxiety, depression, dementia, and even death. So, allow the elderly in your life to continue to play an active role in your family, in your social circle, in your community, and you can create these opportunities in everyday life, even if it's just taking leisurely walks around the neighborhood, or if you're caring for an elderly person with mobility issues, you can opt for an indoor activity like a bingo night or family dinner. I mean, the social opportunities, especially now where we have the technology, it can go a real long way. Keep learning. So this, I know we've heard this a lot. So taking care of another person means that you have to continue learning about their needs and how to address them. For one, you may need to help them move around the house. So this would require you to learn how to lift and move them safely. So observing the proper body mechanics so that you're also protected as you perform these lifts. I know professionally, when I worked at the Alzheimer's Association, I heard a lot of stories about the caregivers, trying to lift their parents and hurting their backs, and then they're in the hospital or they're on medication to deal with their illness. So if you can prevent that from happening by learning how to properly lift them, that will benefit both of you. And those, there are a lot of tips and resources for that on many websites, and we'll go into that a little bit later in the episode. So, some elderly people also develop challenging behaviors as they age. They can become verbally aggressive or extremely oppositional. So, the caregiver should learn how to properly manage and prevent this if possible. Whichever the case may be with the elderly you care for, it's important that you keep learning and that you create safety guidelines, which you can then regularly update as you gain more knowledge and experience. So, another helpful tip for caregiving and caregivers is to get professional help. So, being a caregiver for an elderly loved one doesn't mean that you put the rest of your life on hold. Even if you are bent on dedicating all your time and effort into caring for them, there will be times when you need professional help, especially with the medical aspect of care. It's important to integrate your care with that of a professional's since they can offer expert advice. In fact, geriatric care has become one of the most important nursing careers as they can help manage age specific health issues like Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia, as well as other health troubles common in seniors like osteoporosis and chronic diseases. Um, so, again, our podcast has a lot of great episodes, but we've got a couple wonderful ones on osteoporosis. Dr. Thacker interviewed one of her women's health fellow graduates in May to talk about what's new in osteoporosis in regards to prevention, treatment. So, highly recommend taking a listen to that episode. So these nurses or other healthcare clinicians who are specializing in geriatric care, they are trained to be patient, communicative, and they can be really good partners for caregivers and help you create home care plans. So take advantage of, the resources um, that you have either with your physician or again, maybe a local Alzheimer's chapter. Uh, So again, we'll dive into some of those tips later in the episode. So creating a safe environment is a top tip. Even if an elderly person requires care in some daily activities, it's important that they still maintain independence as much as they can. This will improve their quality of life and it strengthens their sense of dignity, makes them have that confidence. So make sure that their home environment helps cultivate their ability to do daily living tasks. That would include bathing, eating, and just mobility within the premises where they're living. Um, Also, ensure that there's minimal risk of injury or fall. Again, we're going to dive into some of those tips in this episode as well. Most importantly, make sure that they feel comfortable and secure within their own home if that's where they are living. And no matter how challenging it can get, caring for the elderly in your life, it is a very rewarding experience. It takes dedication and genuine concern, and that is something to be very proud of. I know everybody has to make a choice um, about, let's say, their parents as they are getting older. Are they going to go into assisted living? Do they need to go into, a more type of secure environment, or are they going to be living with you, or are they going to stay in their home? So there's so many choices, and it can be very, very stressful and overwhelming. So take one step at a time and do the research. Talk with, who you are caregiving for, if it is your parents. And, it is even helpful to have a plan before you get to a point where they need that type of caregiving.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
So I mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about preventing falls and injury. And this is really important because many of those who are, as they age, a fall can disrupt their life. It can even lead to death. So it's extremely valuable to know how to prevent these falls. There was recently a woman who submitted a few questions on speakingofwomenshealth.com about her mother in law, and she was concerned about her mother in law's safety at home. So her first question is, my mother in law has fallen several times in her home, and we'd like to make her home safer. What are some ways we can make her home more fall proof? Well, the answer to this, after speaking with our experts, is if your mother in law is living alone, then you and she may wish to speak to your local office of the aging or a social worker to determine if she needs more assistance to live more safely at home for as long as possible. A home evaluation can also be conducted to determine what special needs your mother in law may have. Some communities offer the service for free, which is wonderful. Other communities may refer you to a home healthcare agency on a fee for service basis. A geriatric clinic may be better equipped to help you and your mother evaluate the need for social services, a need that may increase with time. So, first, consider some or all of these general safety guidelines. Have emergency numbers readily available in case of emergency. And we suggest putting these in the kitchen, on the refrigerator or a cabinet, as well as in the bathrooms, as well as in the bedroom, as well as in, say, it be the family room where they have a favorite chair that they sit at a lot to either watch TV or read or whatever their hobbies are. So emergency numbers would include police, fire, poison control, and a neighbor's phone number, as well as the caregiver's phone number. Suggestion is to write these numbers on a sticker and put it right on the phone. Again, we recommend having a landline phone, as well as be it a smartphone or, something similar to that. Also, phones that are developed for those with low vision could be really helpful for an older person where maybe their vision is declining. And, these phones, they're easy to use and they have large, high contrast features, and have at least one phone located where it is always accessible. So, keeping a cordless phone in their pocket, if possible, be it again a cell phone or if it's a landline cordless phone. And this is especially important if they fall and they can't get up to use the phone. I know there are other options. We've all seen those commercials where you can wear something around your neck and there's a button to press. So, looking into all of those different options and determining what would work best for the family member or friend or that you are caregiving for. Consider maybe leasing a lifeline button. So, this is what I was just referring to. And that could be also through your local hospital or via a national company. And they're pretty much are low cost and they can work anywhere in the home as long as the person is wearing the button. So, again, good tips to know for those if they're living at home and you want to prevent their fall for this woman who's concerned about her mother in law is to make sure the smoke detectors work properly. Also, avoid the use of space heaters and electric blankets because these are fire hazards. Make sure the hallways, the stairways, and the entrances are all really well lit. Install a nightlight in the bathroom and the hallways, and make sure there's a light switch at the top and bottom of the staircases. Turn lights on. So if they're getting up in the middle of the night, try and help, you know, encourage them to turn the lights on if they're getting up, and to make sure that the lamps and the light switches are within reach of the bed. So if they do have to get up during the nighttime, because a lot of times when it's dark and again you're waking up, your balance is off. So light can help, in taking their time to make sure that they can see where they're going. You don't want them to, bump into anything, hit their head, again, even like trip. And then, of course, we don't want them to fall. Make sure the treads and the rails and rugs are secure on all stairways. And if they have any rugs, area rugs in there throughout the home. So I know even I personally, sometimes do a slip on some of our area rugs. And I definitely should put some treads on the bottom of those. Install a rail on both sides of the stairs, so not just the typical one that is, usually comes in houses and apartments, but on both sides. And if the stairs are really steep, it may be helpful to arrange most of their activities on the lower level to reduce the number of times that stairs need to be climbed. Install metal handles on the walls next to doorknobs of all doors and entrances to make it more secure as they are traveling through the doorway. And then here are some specific guidelines for the living area and the bedrooms. So, one, place furniture with wide spaces in between, so that will give them enough room to move around, and establish a route through the living room or great room, family room, that gives them something to hold on to as they're walking. This will help them from falling in case they lose their balance. And if possible, try and arrange the furniture so the outlets are available for lamps and appliances without the need for extension cords. So if extension cords are used, make sure they're secured with tape and that they're out of the way so there's no way that they can be tripped over. Use chairs with straight backs, armrests, and firm seats because this will help make it easier for them to get up and sit down. Add firm cushions to existing pieces of furniture to add height and make it easier to move. Install handrails along the hallways if needed, and wall on the walls and stairwells where there is nothing else to hold on to. And there's so many options now to make these type of handrails and other tips that we talked about to make them look nice. It doesn't have to be something that looks obtrusive in the home. Some specific guidelines for the bathroom to help prevent falls and injuries. One, use an elevated toilet seat, um, as well as maybe safety rails to assist standing from a lower surface. And do not use towel racks or bathroom tissue holders to help you stand because one, it it happens even in our house. But pulling on that towel rack, it's just going to come right off the wall, and then you can fall down to the ground. Um, Tip two is to install grab bars inside the tub or shower as well as outside the tub or shower. Use a bathtub transfer bench or a shower chair that has a nice back support. It's very helpful. And put extended lever handles on the faucets to make them easier to churn if you don't already have, faucets that are easy to turn on and off. And install grab bars and put a non-skid mat in the tub or shower, or even those cute decals that you can put on the tub or shower. Because stepping in, especially if you already have the water running, boy, that is an injury waiting to happen sometimes. So the skid mat can, help them get a good footing as they're stepping into the tub or shower. And get rid of those small bathroom rugs that can cause them to trip. Instead, you can purchase a large rug, and that covers most of the floor in the bathroom. And again, apply that non-stick backing, or just maybe install wall-to-wall carpeting. I know it's always, not a favorite, but that would really prevent any type of slipping and tripping in the bathroom. So, specific guidelines for the kitchen to help prevent falling and injuries. One, install non skid rubber mats near the sink and stove. And then make sure to encourage those that are living at home. So, for this woman, encourage your mother in law to clean any spills immediately so there's not any water or anything wet on the floor because that is going to lead to a slip and a fall. And two, place utensils and pots, pans, measuring cups all on a pegboard or in an accessible cupboard instead of in lower cupboards, which would require bending. Um, and then try sitting when getting things out of lower cupboards. If it's easy for your mother in law to get up and down, that can really help so they're not bending over. So, the woman also had a second question about her mother in law who is living at home by herself, and she's concerned about that her mother in law could fall and injure herself. So, the second question from this woman is, what are some ways my mother in law can maintain her balance to prevent falls? So, yeah, balance um, is something that we should try and start as early as possible. There's a lot of great types of exercise out there that work on balance, like yoga and Pilates. Um, but as we get older, maintaining balance can definitely prevent falls and injuries. So, some ways to maintain balance is keep at least one hand free at all times, and try using maybe a backpack or a fanny pack to hold things rather than carrying them in your hands, and never carry objects in both hands when walking. This is a really helpful tip. You wouldn't think about that, but it interferes with maintaining balance. So, number two, to maintain balance is to attempt to swing both arms from front to back while walking. So it can, this can require a very conscious effort. However, it really does help maintain balance and posture and reduce fatigue when walking. Um, if your mother-in-law becomes frozen, so visualize stepping over an imaginary object or have someone place his or her foot in front of yours to step over, and not to have the caregiver or companion or whoever is maybe helping pull you, because this can throw you off your balance even more and prolong the episode. If balance, though, continues to be a problem, you may want to consider a walking aid, such as a cane or walking stick or walker. And keep in mind that insurance usually covers physical therapy that targets balance, um, especially if there's a gait or vestibular disorder. And when the therapy is completed, they provide a home exercise program that is encouraged to be maintained. And other activities, we talked about, yoga, Pilates, but there's also Tai Chi. That is an activity that really improves balance. And it's, not difficult to find low cost, maybe community programs for seniors to help improve balance. Of course, there's always a lot of free online videos on yoga and Tai Chi. Consciously lift the feet off of the ground when walking. So you don't want to shuffle and drag your feet, because this can be a common culprit in losing your balance. And when trying to navigate churns, okay, so you're going to use a U technique of facing forward and making a wide churn rather than pivoting sharply, like if you're going into a hallway. So take a wide churn rather than quickly just going, you know, and pivot to the into the hallway. And try standing with feet shoulder length apart. Again, if you were to take a yoga class, they really do a great job teaching and encouraging that. So when the feet are closer together for any length of time, you increase your risk of losing your balance and falling. But when they're aligned with your shoulders, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Your body's all aligned, from the shoulders down to the toes. And do one thing at a time. Don't try to walk and accomplish another task, especially, don't try and walk and be on your cell phone. I mean, that's just for anyone, not just the elderly that are worried about falling. That's just something that can cause a lot of accidents and bumping into things, bruises. Um, and, the decrease in an elderly person's automatic reflexes complicates the motor function. So the less distraction, the better. Focus on one thing. So there's a few more tips that I want to go through on how this woman's mother-in-law can maintain her balance and prevent falls. Do not wear rubber or gripping soled shoes, as they can catch on the floor and then cause tripping. The kind of like that noise you hear when you're on the hardwood floor when you're wearing, I know my kids are wearing those Crocs, and you could hear it, and then, a trip can happen. Um, and the last tip is move slowly when changing positions. Use deliberate, concentrated movements, and if needed, use a grab bar or walking aid, which we've talked about. And here's another really helpful tip: count 15 seconds between each movement. So, for example, if you're rising from a seated position, wait 15 seconds after standing to begin walking. So that way they kind of give your mind and your body, a little bit of time to go on to the next step. You rose and now count 15 and then begin walking. Now, when caring for a loved one, especially a person living with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, it is important to remember to take care of yourself as well as the person you're caring for, of course. But you can't do the job if you're not taking care of yourself, and we talk about this, as mothers, as, busy women and men who are doing it all, who are working and caregiving. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to do things for you. And not that's just not, the daily things like showering and eating healthy meals, but doing things that you enjoy in life that bring you happiness. Because if you are not happy and if you're not fulfilled, you're not going to enjoy that time caregiving for others. So, a friend of Speaking of Women's Health, her name is Jennifer Lewis Hall. She wrote a wonderful guest column on speakingofwomenshealth.com called Take Care of Yourself While Caregiving for Others. Um, Jennifer Lewis Hall, she's a former national keynote speaker for Speaking of Women's Health, and she anchors PHL 17 Morning News in Philadelphia, and she's the host and producer of their public affairs program, In Focus, and it shines a spotlight on issues that impact communities, including topics from ranging from breast cancer awareness, heroin and opiate addiction. And she um, was a caregiver to her dad, and wrote this wonderful column about, again, caring for yourself and how to avoid the stress of caregiving. So I want to share her tips as a caregiver with you. So, again, as many of us are helping someone in some way that we love or care about, and we wouldn't have it any other way. However, um, experts say the truth is if you are one of the millions of women caregiving, chances are at some point you've felt tired, overwhelmed, and even maybe sad or depressed. And Jennifer can definitely relate to this as she was the caregiver to her dad. Um, and this is very important responsibility caregiving. In addition to work and kids and family, it left little time for her to take it easy and regroup and rest and relax. Um, so she insists that you must take the time to take care of yourself. Is it hard? Yes, but it's a must because of the impact caregiving can have on your mental, physical, and emotional health. So Jennifer shares 5 ways to take care of yourself while caregiving for others. Um, and these are a handful of her simple tips, or you might say gentle reminders, for taking care of yourself while you're providing care for the physical and emotional needs of a family member or a friend. Number one, set aside time for yourself. It can be difficult to do. Of course, it can be difficult to do in so many people's lives. But you've got to take that me time. Self-care trending, a lot lately the last few years, but literally, build it into your schedule. It's good for your well-being and it's good for maintaining relationships you enjoy. So if it is, every Friday you go to an exercise class or you meet up with a friend for lunch, whatever it is, put it in your schedule and have it regularly. Number two, treat your body well. We talk about this a lot on the podcast episode, and Dr. Thacker has so many wonderful episodes on how to treat your body well. But, eating healthy and keeping your body moving is crucial. So whether it's getting to a local gym or just taking a walk around the block, um, please make sure you do that for yourself and get plenty of sleep. When sleep is in short supply, and for many of us, that's often the case, take a nap and don't feel bad about taking a nap. Your body's telling you it's tired and it needs sleep. Number three, give yourself an emotional break. Caregiving can bring about a range of emotions, especially as if you are caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's disease or dementia. There are so many different phases and things can change rapidly. So you are going to, have yourself a bit of a roller coaster with your own emotions, dealing with them and those stages. So talk to supportive friends about what you're feeling. Don't be too hard on yourself when things aren't going the way you'd like them to. Just take a breath. Tomorrow is a new day for you to regroup. And just remember to be patient and kind to you as well. Number four, ask for help. Speak up and let people know when you need them to chip in. Use your resources, friends, family, or if there's services offered through a social worker or a local nonprofit, some volunteer organizations or houses of worship. See what they have to offer because it's there. And it could be added support when it comes to providing meals or transportation or even doing laundry. So especially if you are a caregiver who still works full time, you can't do it all. So you need that help, and it's there. Um, Number 5, do a weekly schedule and keep it in your phone or write it on a calendar, whichever you prefer, and include days you've got appointments. So the person you're caregiving for has appointments, and who's filling in while maybe you're out or you're unable to take them to those appointments. So have prepare, keep track of that, and maybe at the beginning of each week, check your calendar, check the person you're caring for, their calendar, what appointments they have, and again, reach out to others. So maybe you don't have to do it all. And Jennifer includes important phone numbers and contacts, in her calendar there too. So everything is in one place and it helps save her time and reduces stress. Um, In addition to these tips that Jennifer has provided, our team has also put together a few more additional tips for staying healthy while caregiving that we'd like to share with you. Stress management. So stress can contribute to high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, and can cause problems with memory, concentration, and judgment. It can lead to worsening chronic medical conditions such as chronic pain, um, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and decreased immunity. So, to help cope with stress, again, be sure to get a good night's sleep, exercise, talk to a trusted counselor, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So, we're saying the same things over, but it can't be stressed enough. Um, we also, again, like to emphasize exercise because exercise can help decrease the stress that caregiving can have on the body. So if you're struggling with finding the time to exercise, start small, exercise at home, start with 10 minutes a day, whatever it is, but get in a little bit if you can, and let friends and family help, and give yourself an exercise break. Just say, I need to take a walk. Can you please help? And people, they want to help. Your team, your family, your friends, they want to help you and they want to help the person that you're caregiving for. You just have to ask. And eat well. So, eating a heart healthy diet, such as the Mediterranean diet, are really good for your overall health, and they can even help protect the brain. So, this diet is also good for the person you're caring for. And you can go on our speakingofwomenshealth.com website, and we have a list of all the foods that are in the Mediterranean diet. Um, so, it's a well researched diet that has proven to provide a lot of health benefits. Take some time away for yourself. Again, just like Jennifer said, it's always a good idea to have a little me time. But when you are caring for someone, it's even more important. So take a walk or a 10-minute meditation in the morning. Do something for yourself. Talk to someone. Again, emphasizing what Jennifer has shared. If you feel overwhelmed, talk to a friend. And just talking about how you're feeling can help relieve those built up emotions you're feeling throughout the day, that weight on your shoulders, as they say. If you do start experiencing any symptoms of depression, you know, call and see your doctor and have a support team. So you cannot do it all yourself. So include other family members or friends to also help with the caregiving responsibilities. Now, if you did not hear my podcast episode in June on Alzheimer's disease and dementia, I hope you will consider taking a listen. As I shared some helpful information and resources for caregivers, um, the Alzheimer's Association offers virtual support groups, a 24/7 helpline. It's free. Somebody will answer the phone. You will talk to a real person And even if you do need that tip, as we say, talk to someone, that helpline is there for you, and they will hear you, they will listen, and they will provide any help they can. There's also free online community and message boards through the Alzheimer's Association on their website for everyone affected by the disease, including caregivers and those diagnosed with the disease. Individuals living with Alzheimer's, caregivers, family members, and friends, they can ask any questions and get advice and find support through the association. And there are also other local resources like in person support groups through your local Alzheimer's Association chapter. And you can visit their website for more information about all of these things I'm talking about. And that website is alz.org. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Speaking of Women's Health podcast. We are so grateful that you listen and you support, and we hope you will consider sharing this with others, with friends, family, maybe donating, and maybe leaving a 5-star rating. To catch all the latest from our podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and it's free to subscribe, and that way you won't miss any future episodes. And if you have a question or a topic you'd like to hear, visit speakingofwomenshealth.com and fill out our Contact Us form, and we'll receive that, and we might just talk about your topic or answer your question in an upcoming episode. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you next time in the Sunflower House. Remember, be strong, be healthy, and be in charge.